Hey everybody, it is Deanna Hinsz. I am here with my friend Dhariana. Dhariana, how are
Hi.
you?
I'm good. I'm so excited because I missed you so much.
I miss you too. I do. I mean, we were like in a groove of really talking all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And since this
After
move,
last summer, we were like best friends. We hung out one day and like.
that's so true. We did at Dugo. Yeah, we spent the whole
Yeah.
day together, became like BFFs. But it's been
Yeah.
awesome. It's been so good for me because first off, I mean, I absolutely love you. I adore you.
I love you too.
And it is really nice to be able to bounce ideas and struggles off with you, so when there's
Yeah,
something
for
that I'm
sure.
struggling with in my business or I'm not really sure, to call and say, hey, what would you do?
Yeah,
It's really cool to
anytime.
have that person. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I love
it
being able
is.
to support you like that because I know a lot of times it's if your friends are not doing what you're doing, it's hard to, get feedback or just have someone understand or just vent.
Yeah, that's it. And I think a lot of times that's what we do with each other, right? We just kind of vent and then it's
We go
fine.
off on tangents, yeah, and then we're like, oh, okay, I feel better now. Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about rebranding your business and how to do it successfully. You just went through a rebrand, but before we talk about this huge rebrand that your marketing agency just went through, tell me a little bit, or tell everybody a little bit about who is Dhariana Lozano?
Hi, so I am a social media consultant and a coach. More recently, I started doing one-on-one coaching, and I've been doing social media for a decade now, which is crazy to say. So I got it when it wasn't a thing, and now here I am. Just helping people. I help entrepreneurs and businesses, big and small, figure out social media strategy. That's what I love, is figuring out social media strategy and helping them execute and grow their businesses, bring in more leads and revenue. And yeah, that's what I do, all things social media.
So, right. So you just actually were named one of the top 100 digital marketing influencers?
Yes, which was like, what is happening? Yeah, there's an article. It's another agency, and I forget their name, but they use BuzzSumo, which, Buzz. If you're not familiar with it, people out there that are not, it kind of, how do I say this? It attributes all of like the social media shares that come from like articles and accounts, and so they put together this list. They took out companies because obviously huge brands like Social Media Examiner, they'll probably be on top. But when they narrowed it down to just people, I'm like 53. So now I'm like, my goal is like to move up that list.
Well, congratulations. I mean, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I know. I saw that. I'm like, go Dhariana. Like, good for you.
Thank you. One of my readers like sent it to me before I even saw it. So I was like, what are they talking about? Like, I went in. So thank you to everyone that interacts with me and shares my articles and reads. I was like, people read my blog? That's amazing.
Well, you know what? That's a good point. So a lot of times we write blogs and then we just wonder, like, does anybody really read it? Or, yeah. So no, I think that's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations. I'm excited for you. And I know next year you'll be bumped up that list. I have no doubt.
I want to be like 20.
There you go. So let's talk about Block Ave. You just recently, in 2020, this amazing year that it's been, right, of smooth sailing.
Crazy, right?
Made the decision to do a you made the decision to do a total rebrand of your marketing agency prior to COVID.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So the decision, the process started in 2019. In the fall. So rebranding is not as easy as you might think it is. It's not like, oh, I just changed my name. So it's quite the process. And we were never in love with our original name. It wasn't like we just kind of picked one and went with it. And just like get the business started and set up, and then we realized like, oh my God, it's been 4 years and we haven't, like, we need to do this because there's something about just being proud of your business and like the colors and the branding and all that stuff. Like, at least for me, it's important. I am a sucker for packaging and branding, and things weren't exactly where we wanted to be. I mean, we weren't motivated to work on it because it just wasn't, you know, we kind of weren't sure. And we wanted to kind of revamp everything from not only our name, but like how we presented ourselves and the actual brands that we were going after. We work a lot in hospitality, and we still kept all our clients, so none of that went away, or the ones that are still open. You know, it's been with the pandemic, it's been quite the shift for some of our clients. So some of them closed, some of them have opened and closed and like opened again. So it's been kind of a process there. But we wanted to pivot kind of away from hospitality and restaurants and go back to where my roots in social media marketing are, which is more B2B. I just miss it. I miss being in B2B, even though it wasn't like the sexiest brands. It was like financial publications and like magazines about pipes and metal and like stuff that you would think like, what are you like, why are you into that?
Well, you know, it's true. A lot of my clients always say they're not very sexy. Like, a lot of my clients are exactly what you're describing, and I love them. They're great, but
isn't it fun?
You've got like the sexy ones, which what is it's food, it's coffee, it's wine. Like, those are fun to market, right?
They are fun. They are fun. But there's something, but there's something about the challenge of a B2B. And because I have experience in both business to consumer and business to business, I can bring some of that business to consumer stuff over to the business to business side. And it's pretty innovative because they probably haven't done it before.
Right.
So I wanted to pivot back towards that. And so that was like the whole reason behind the rebrand. It was like we just picked the name. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't what we wanted. So that decision was made, and it actually, the whole process started in the fall. We had a whole board of what we needed to do. So this rebrand hasn't been the only rebrand I've done. I've been involved with rebrands with the companies that we work with, or, you know, kind of indirectly, but never behind the scenes. So this was very different for me.
Right.
There's so many moving parts.
Well, there are, and we're going to talk about some of those moving parts, because I do think people think a rebrand is just let's change the name or maybe tweak the font or something like that, and it's a rebrand. And there's actually a lot more that goes into it, a lot more strategy.
Yes. So beyond like the legalities, so, you know, you can't just like change a business name. You have to dissolve your old business, start a new business. So we went through that process, which, you know, isn't an overnight process either. You have to, you know, advertise in the publications and then submit all the paperwork. And, you know, we were in the middle of finding a new CPA at the same time. So we went through a lot of like shifts. So we found our new CPA first. He's wonderful. And then after that, we were like, hey, now that you're here, can you like help us with this rebrand? We're starting over. So he kind of walked us through the steps, because again, I hadn't done a rebrand from like the internal brand side. It was always like, hey, this is happening. How do we switch everything over on social media? So that was definitely a learning process. We were like, oh, we can't just, there's no paperwork to just change your name and like keep all your bank accounts. Like, no, you have to start completely over. So that was fun.
Yeah.
You know, and then
how long did that process take?
It was about, so we switched like the business entity as well. We went from LLC to an S Corp. We just had, you know, financial reasons and just how you want to structure our business in the future, which LLC is great for just like getting your business off the ground. It's probably quicker and there's less kind of things to do. And so that's when we started with, but after having a chat with him and what we wanted to do, he thought S Corp was more kind of what we should be doing. So we decided to go that route. And I think it took, you have to advertise for a few weeks and then submit all that paperwork. So it took I think it was about a month and a half. And then once we got the paperwork, there was still more to fill out.
You thought you were done.
Yeah, I thought I was done. And he's like, no, we have to like sign all this paperwork now. So it was like signing all the paperwork and, there's still even contracts between my partner and I that we have to do in order, because now there's like, because it's an S corp, there's like stocks, and my partner is my boyfriend, we're not married, so like we should have a contract between each other. So there's like all these little things. So we went through that process, and then it was like, okay, now we have to launch this thing. Like we have to let people know.
Right.
Our
so
clients
how did you do that? How did you launch the rebrand?
Yeah, so first we let our clients know. Like let them know, like, hey, our name is changing. Here's our new banking information. Again, things that you're not like really thinking about. It's like, stop emailing me at this old email address. This is our new email address starting this date. We had to like set the date. And then we sat down and thought, okay, what do we need next? So there was like logos. Great. So we have an amazing graphic designer and animator that we work with. So he was our go-to for that. We loved, like, there's our mint color that's like an accent color on our website and our branding. I chose the color. I did color psychology in college. So
I did too. I talk about it all the time. I love color psychology.
Right. So I'm like, let's do the, I'm always in black. So obviously that was like a color. And we actually also work with Columbia Business School here in New York City, and I'm sure probably elsewhere, has a small business program. We qualified for it, so we have an advisor there, and she's like, you need to have a color, like it can't just be black and white. And I'm like, I know, but So we chose the mint color. It's modern, and it's soothing and calming, and against the black, and it pops, and it looks good against white as well. So we chose that. The name was also a process.
So tell us the name and how you came up with it. I think it's so cool.
It's Block Ave. And my boyfriend and I have a whiteboard, so we were like writing down a bunch of names and just words, like a full brain dump on this whiteboard. It was like, it's a big one, so we're just like writing. All of a sudden, my boyfriend's looking out the window, and he just goes, New York City is all blocks and avenues. I think that's the name. And I was like, I think that's the name. Block Ave. Yeah, so that's the story behind the name. It was like he got a flash, he got a download, and that's how we chose it. But we wanted something that was very New York City.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
That is you. You are very New York City. But the reason I love that so much is because there's so much truth behind that. Sometimes we do this brain dump and we write all this stuff and we're brainstorming and we're really working hard trying to come up with the perfect thing. And then totally out of the blue, it'll just hit us, and you instantly know. It's like that's it. That's the name.
I had kind of tasked him with that because I'm not the best at naming things. Like I'm working on it. But the brain dump helped, and having a direction helped. I think I like to work backwards from things. Even when I work with my social media strategies and with my clients, I'm like, what's the big picture for you? 5 or 10 years down the line, like, what do you see? And that's how I like to work. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't know what the granular stuff. It's just not how my brain works. Like it just, I'm a big picture person, and he likes detail.
I get it.
So for me, the little details are just like, like it just doesn't process. So I'm like, okay, well, I know that I wanted to be like, I wanted to say New York City. I wanted to feel like that. So what is it? How did we do that? And he he was literally like staring out the window because, in our views of the highway and stuff. And he just looked at me. He's like, it's all blocks and avenues. And I was
love
it is. That's, that's what we're known for. Not road. Like I know people like, oh, down the road. Like we don't say that here. It's like it's either block, street, what avenue it is. So I was like, that's cool. Like, how did you come up with that? It just, but brain dumps help. I think having a direction, having where you want to end up, if you're not great at naming, getting everything out, because that helps us cross things off too. Like, no, this is too long. Do you want a combination name or not? I think that's very popular now and modern to have like, we see it in big brands like Rag & Bone or to combine two things. So we didn't intentionally set out to do that, but we weren't against it. But at least if you have a direction and you know in your brain dump, I don't want to, or, you know, this is too long, then you can kind of narrow things down if you're having trouble.
Yeah.
The color just kind of came to me. Like that one was my my kind of download.
It's very similar to your personal branding too. So it has that same flow. You can definitely see that, you know, between the two, which is nice because it ties it together.
Right.
It's a smooth transition between your personal brand and then your agency brand. So once you came up with the rebrand, you came up with the name, you did all the legal stuff that you have to go through. You told your clients everything is changing, the name is changing, right? Now you've got to put it out to the world. Right.
Yes.
So, and of course you redid a website with a new domain and all that. But how did you do that on social media? Like, did you make a big announcement, or did you just make it pretty seamless and just like, we've always been here? What do you mean?
So usually when we do a rebrand, we just try to plan things out as far advanced as possible. So we chose everything, then we thought about what we want our accounts to look like. Like, what is the look and feel here? What, you know, are we going to use text on our images? Are we going to just use like lifestyle images? What is that going to look like? So we decided that, and I think we've done a good job of keeping it very New York City looking and keeping the dark colors. And we have, you know, before we didn't use like word overlays, but now we're doing that with this business. It just felt right for us, and we're trying something new. And then for this one, we kind of quietly launched that first. So we put some content out there, just so that there's something there before we said, hey, we're here. Like this is us now. So we got some content up, and then through our personal channels, we directed traffic and said, hey, we're here. So that included getting blog posts up on the blog. I think we have like 5 or 6 that are up before launch. We had a few posts go out about, you know, meet the team, a little blurb about my partner and I. We had descriptions about who our new agency is and who we help. So now that we want to do more B2B, we added that we help executives, whether that's with training or managing their social media accounts. We put that out there as well in the biographies. So this one was more of a quiet launch at first. Like we just kind of put content out there, and then through our personal channels, we're like, hey, we have a new brand. Like, here it is, everyone, go check it out.
Did you create new Facebook pages and Instagram pages, or did you do a name change?
So when I've done it with other brands in the past or our clients, we did just change the names and just kind of announce it like, hey, now we're this. But with this one, we were just like, we're scrapping everything, throw it all out, start over, because our audience wasn't going to be who we wanted, and we didn't want to like have that transition. We just felt for this, we felt like, let's just start over, let's scrap it and start over. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and I think that's good to point out. Like there was thought behind it of who's your audience, and you were able to recognize, which I knew you would be able to recognize because this is what you do for other companies as well. But that if the audience is not the same audience, and you're completely shifting gears, then completely scrap it.
It's better to start over.
It's okay. It shouldn't be that scary to scrap it and just start fresh. But if it's the same audience, a name change is okay, you know, if you're still speaking to the same group. So
exactly right. So and we thought about it, and it was a choice that took us a few days to make because you work so hard to build up an audience. It's kind of hard to let it go. Like, oh man, like, and especially now, you know, with like Facebook, for example, like it's hard to build up an audience there, at least for certain brands. Like your audience is just not on there, which is fine. That's not a problem. But you're kind of like, oh, I worked for like 4 years to build this up, and now like we just scrap it. But it made more sense to scrap it for us, and we weren't attached. Again, like we kind of stepped back and said, well, does it really matter? Like, are these people going to interact? Like, they're mostly hospitality, and are they going to pay attention if we're talking about like how your C-suite should be using social media marketing. Like probably not. So it's not going to be useful. There's not, that conversion's not going to happen. They're not going to be engaged. So it's better to just let's start over and try to build up that new audience that we're going after. So it was a choice.
What has been the biggest struggle with that? And this is fairly new. So
yeah, so we've
you just really launched not long ago.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, we were ready, right? So behind the scenes, we had already kind of started connecting with people, reaching out. Our LinkedIn's had changed over as soon as the name went through. We switched all that stuff over as soon as we had logos. But we didn't like really launch till maybe, what are we in August? Maybe a month ago, month and a half about. But yeah, so the struggle, I guess, is, you know, anytime you're in a new space, it's just things don't happen overnight. So it's just getting the content right. So we switch content gears over from just general, like how to help your small business to geared more towards business to business. So we have an article about, you know, how are your executives on social media, and why is your C-suite and top tier executives, why it's beneficial for them to be on social. So it's just been a content switch, and thinking about who we're reaching now. Again, we're not trying to go after the small business owner anymore. We're going after chief marketing officers or the VP of marketing, or, you know, just people that are higher up the chain. So it's a thought process of like, how do they process content? So are they watching videos? Are they, you know, I know in that world, because I was in it, there's a lot of like white papers and infographics. So that's like the next iteration. So we're concentrating on like getting our case studies out there more. Before, in the past, we did speak about our clients, but it was like, this is what they have going on. There's, you know, it was a lot of food. When we still have our food clients and we love them and we're not going anywhere with them, but it was more like, they have a special happening. Whereas now it's like we have full case studies. Like, this is how we've helped them increase. And we did that a little bit before, but now it's really more about numbers, because again, these people in these higher up positions in a company that's more business to business, they care about those numbers. I mean, that's why I love analytics so much, is because I came from that world and I always had to prove, you know, this is working, or, you know, I've sent this much traffic to your sales team and then they were able to convert. So that's another shift that we have gone through. But it's all in the messaging and, again, who we're trying to reach and how we connect with them and how we get our message in front of them.
So if someone is watching and they're going through a rebrand right now, or maybe they're thinking about maybe rebranding, maybe they're like, you know what, I launched this business and I've done it. This is what you went through, right? Launched this business and didn't really put as much thought, but now like it's changing and I want to do a rebrand. What would you tell them to do?
Go for it. It's an exciting time. No, it's really an exciting time. It gives you a chance to step back and really, again, when I started my business, I knew I wanted to do social media marketing, but we didn't have like a vision. It was just like, all right, we got to just get this going, because we had clients, but it's like, oh my gosh, we need a bank account. We have to put this business together, you know? Like, it's not, they can't just pay you and me like a written check, like, I guess, but if this grows, like, this can't go on like that. Yeah. So I think when you have a chance, and I feel like every 5 years you should just take a step back and like take a look at what you're doing and say, is this really what I want to do? And you shouldn't be afraid of the process. I know that, and this happens in general in life, you get used to things being a certain way, and that's where you're used to. And so the thought of changing or shifting or starting over, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be brand new at this again. But you'll find your bearings, and it does give you a chance to reflect on what you've done and really think about, okay, if I get to start over now. So it's a blank slate. Like, what do I really want to do? What worked before that I want to keep doing? What did I not want? You know, and it's it's been a whole mindset change for us, because it's, we changed our pricing, we changed our package structure, we changed how we onboard our clients so that there's more clarity and more boundaries, and it feels so good and fresh and new. And it's like, well, this is the new way we're doing it because we're blocking out now. So it's not, yeah, it's not like Drew and Daria. It's just not the same. It feels different. So if someone was thinking about it, I would say, really think about your goals. Think about why you're doing the rebrand. I think it gives you an opportunity to like come back new as well. Like you're like back in here. People are like, congrats on your new company. And I'm like, it's not really a new company, but it is. So it just it also like puts you front of mind again. So if you're a business or a service business that puts out press releases, like that's a great time to like get more exposure. So there's a lot of benefits to rebranding, but if you're happy with how things are, then, but I think every few years you need a little refresh. You see the big brands even just like, refresh their logo or, switch things up because times change. And if you don't adapt and evolve, then you just get lost. How many brands.
We've seen that with a lot of businesses. Pre-COVID even. I mean, a lot of businesses that didn't adapt to the online world and just stayed brick and mortar that didn't survive. And and I'm not including what's going on with COVID because nobody expected any of this stuff to shift.
Yes, but even with COVID, a lot, even, with our businesses, we had one restaurant that has a brick oven. And the chef was like, no, I'll never do pizzas before. He was like, no, we were like, you ever thought about pizzas? He's like, no, there's enough, places that do pizza like that. Like I just want to stick to my, my food, and his food is incredible. But now with COVID, it happened and he had to shut down and he had a few days to reflect. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to do pizzas now.
Well, you do what you have to survive.
You do what you have to. So this is part of that, I feel, even in, the general purpose without COVID, let's take that out. I think in order, if you want your business to last and survive, you have to adapt. I mean, this is how those big businesses and big brands stay top of mind and have been around for years, like Coca-Cola. They look a little different than they did when they first started 100 years ago. But
they did.
You have to switch. And there's something about, the classic look and stuff. But if they hadn't adapted, like, they probably wouldn't still be around.
I hear you. Now, your website is blockandave.com, right? It's .com. Okay, that's what I thought. I was typing it in right now.
Thank you.
I was making sure. So if you want to check out Dhariana, this is her website for her marketing agency, Block Ave. She just went through a really cool rebrand. Yes. Definitely you can check Dhariana out on her personal page too, which is it just Dhariana Lozano? I don't even
you can put DharianaLozano.com and then it'll redirect you to darilo.com. So if you can remember my name, it's just very long. But if you type
such a cool name, I love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on with me today. And
it's the first time I get to talk about my new business. That's not just like me on my account. So it's exciting. It's been a process. It's fun to just like talk about it and the new stuff we're doing, like, going into courses for people who want to do personal branding and entrepreneurs, but it's all going to be on the website soon. So it's a fun time.
I love it. I love it. And I love watching everything you're doing. And congratulations again on being one of the top 100 digital marketing influencers. Number 53 to be exact. So
don't worry, guys. I'll be moving my way up that list.
So thank you again, Dhariana. Thanks for everybody watching. And I'll catch everyone next week.
Bye.